Welcome along to part 2 of our video tutorial where we are learning how to create a little Christmas game in Scratch called Run Run Santa. If we have a look at our progress so far, this is where we're sitting. So we basically got everything flying across the screen to almost make it look like we've got a moving backdrop. We've got the enemies, or obstacles you could say, we've got the gifts, and we've also just got the background elements all moving randomly quite nicely across the screen. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to bring in our main character, Santa. At the moment he's hidden, so just show him up, and obviously he's quite large, so let's try and find a reasonable size for him. 50% is too big, we'll try 25. 25's not too bad, probably still a bit big. Let's try 15, that's too small. Size 20% looks pretty good for me, so that's not too bad. He's probably going to be starting around here, so I'm just going to get him in position there, and then I'll be able to get started on his coordinates. So over in my events section, I'm going to bring out the when the green flag is clicked block. Now we've got quite a bit of code to do for this Santa, so let's start by setting his initial coordinates. So go to, say, that position there, -200, -104. Yours might be slightly different, but that's going to work for mine. And he is animated, this guy. It's not much of an animation, but you can see his little legs down here will actually come together and then move apart to make it look like he is running. So let's bring in our usual code to make it look like he's running. So forever. I'm going to do the next costume, and we're also going to do a little wait in here for 0.03 seconds. So when we run that now, you'll see his little legs moving to make it look like he's running along the sand. Next thing we want to do is get him moving when we press our arrow keys. So he's going to move up, right and left. We're not going to worry about down or anything like that. So let's bring out another when the green flag is clicked, and we'll put a forever loop in this, so our computer is always listening or waiting for us to press one of these buttons. So we're going to bring in an if-then statement, and we're going to go to sensing. So if we are pressing we'll start with the up arrow. So if the key up arrow is pressed, what do we want our Santa to do? So I'm going to go back and use my repeat block here. So we're going to repeat 12 times. And then in the motion, we're going to change our y-axis by 12 as well. That'll get him jumping up in the air. Now, to let him fall back down, we need to just wait before we can jump again. Okay, we don't want him to jump multiple times in a row because he'll end up at the top of the page, which is just cheating. So we just want him to jump once and then fall back down. So we're going to put a 0.6 second wait time before you can jump again. So I don't know if this will do much right now, but if we press up, he jumps up and keeps going up. So what we need to do is get some gravity to pull him back down to Earth. So I'm going to bring out another when the green flag is clicked, and a forever loop. And we're going to change our Y value by -5. That way he's always falling down towards the ground by -5 pixels at a time. Okay, so I can jump up every 0.6 of a second, but the issue is he's falling all the way to the ground. I want him to stay level on the sand here. So we're going to have to add in an if-then statement. We want to add it into this block here. So in our events now, our control, bring out an if-then and put it beneath that change Y by -5, and we're going to say if our Y position is less than -120. So in motion you can find the Y position there. So if our Y position, our position on the Y axis is less than 120, which is where that sand is, actually make it -104. I don't want him to go too far down, and we want him to stay up where he began. So -104 is what I'm looking for, sorry. Then we're going to set our Y position back to -104. So every time he tries to fall below that level of the sand, we just set it back to his original starting position. So if I start him up here, he'll fall down and stop when he hits the sand. Okay, so that should work pretty well now. If I press up, He jumps and lands back on the sand. I can't move left and right yet, and I can't press the up arrow multiple times in a row. Okay, so that's looking pretty good actually, so I'm happy with that. Let's get the left and the right arrow keys working now. They're pretty straightforward. So I'm going to bring out yet another when the green flag is clicked, and another forever loop. I'm just going to do a couple of if-then statements. So if, what key is pressed? So we're going to go with the right arrow first. So if the right arrow is pressed, then we are going to change our X value by 4. And I'm going to duplicate that little block of code by right-clicking on it and duplicating it. So now we've got 2 of the same, and I'm going to change it from the right arrow to the left arrow. So when the left arrow is pressed, we're going to move along the x-axis -4. That should get us moving left and right. So let's try that. So we can move right and we can move left. I don't like how we go all the way to the edge of the page though, so we can hardly see our Santa. So what I want to do is change that so that he stops around there at his starting position. Okay, nothing too fiddly here with the code, so I'm going to have to zoom back a bit here for this. Getting a bit crowded. Another. When the green flag is clicked, we'll bring out a forever loop again. And we'll say if the X position is less than -200. So we need the less than symbol again. I'm going to do -200 here. So if our X position, so grab that X position from the motion section. If our X position is less than -200, which means he's gone way off the screen here, and we want to put him back to his start position there, which was -200. So we'll set our X to -200. If we run that now, it just means when I move to the left, he can't go any further than that there, so he's stuck at that position. Same on the other side. Okay, so if I start, he moves back there. If I try and move to the right too far, we'll cut some of him off. I don't want that. I want him to stop before he gets to the edge of the screen, so we can just duplicate what we've got here. And we're going to change it actually to be greater than. So it'll be if our X position is greater than 200, then we'll set our X position to 200. So that just stops him from going off to the edge of the page there. You'll see when I get to the end, that's as far as he can go now at position 200 on the X-axis, and that just stops him. Alright, so he's moving around pretty well. He can jump, he can move left and right, he doesn't get chopped off by the edge of the screen. I think we are looking good. Alright, so I guess it's time now, I don't think there's much else we can do, to start collecting our gifts. We'll worry about the enemies in a minute, but let's go back to these gifts. And we want to make sure that our Santa, or our player, gets a point each time they collect a gift. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable down here, and we'll just call it score, and we'll make it for all sprites and click OK. And you'll see that your score appears up here at the top of the screen. You can either put it on the left or the right, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to put mine over towards the right. Now for our score, what we're going to do is bring out when the green flag is clicked once again. We'll bring out a forever loop, so our game is always listening out for when we touch a gift. So we'll use an if then for that. So if, under sensing, we are touching the Santa. So if our gift 1 is touching the Santa, then what do we want to do? So I'm going to go to variables first of all, and I'm going to change the score by 1. That means we'll add 1 to our score. I'm going to hide the gift, so it disappears straight away. And then I want to play a sound. Now we haven't brought any sounds into our game yet. I've actually got some downloaded off the internet for free, I think. We've got collect, die, ho ho ho, and music. I don't think I used ho 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 in the end, but I'm going to bring in the collect sound. Okay, so that sounds like we've collected something. That's what I'm going to use. So back in my code here, I'm going to start the sound collect. So when we collide, so when the sander and the gift collide, we get 1 point, we hide the gift, and we play the sound collect to make it sound like it's collected something. Let's give that a crack real quickly. It's the first gift that comes out. Perfect. Okay, we've got a point, and I heard the little sound to just basically say we've collected that gift. Now that code can be duplicated for gift number 2 and gift number 3. So I'm just going to drag that out to gift 2 and gift 3. Let's put that there and put that there. We better test it out now just to make sure that we can collect all gifts and get a point for each gift. So we've got a point there. Okay, we just didn't have sounds on gift 2 and 3, and that could be because we've got no sound brought in yet, so we've got to bring that in there. And on gift 3 we better bring in the sound as well, so just upload that sound. Alright, we'll just try that one more time to make sure that's working. Definitely know it works for the first one. It works for the second one now. Works for the third one. Okay, so we've got our sounds working quite nicely. So we can now collect gifts and get a score. One issue I noticed there with the score is it doesn't reset. But don't stress too much about that. That's going to be coming in some later code. The thing I want to work on now are our enemies. Okay, so we've got... I might start with the Christmas tree because it's probably the most basic enemy that appears first. So we'll start with the Christmas tree here. And all we're going to do is... go to the events and bring out the green flag again. Oops, and under control, bring out a forever loop. We always want our program listening out when our Christmas tree and our Santa collide with one another. So let's do another if-then statement with another sensing. So if the tree is touching the Santa, what are we going to do? Well, I'm just going to broadcast a message. And that message is going to be a new message that says game over. Okay, now that's going to broadcast across all the sprites and tell the entire game that it is time to finish. So I'm going to now bring out when I receive message 1 and change that to game over. So when I receive the message game over, I'm going to hide the Christmas tree and I'm going to stop, not stop all, but I'm going to stop the other scripts in this sprite. Okay, so that just stops my Christmas tree from moving. And it stops looking for when I touch the Santa. Now that should be all I need to get that Christmas tree working there. Now we're going to need to put this code onto a few of the other bits and pieces as well before we can get it working properly. So I'm going to drag this code here over to the reindeer next. Oh gee, that's making a bit of a mess of things. There we go. So let's see, the reindeer's now got when I receive game over, and when I touch the Santa, we broadcast the game over. I'll switch them around so they're in a bit more of a logical order. So the reindeer should be all sorted. Okay, we're broadcasting game over. That's all good. And for our gingerbread man, we do the same thing. So drag that over and drag that over. Then go to your gingerbread man. And you'll see that you've got... back here, those 2 new blocks of code. So we touch the Santa, broadcast a message saying it's game over. When we receive game over, we hide our little gingerbread man and we stop the other scripts in the sprite. Okay, that's working well. What I might do is when we do get the message game over, I'm going to hide all these things in the background as well. Okay, the screen's basically going to go blank. So I'm going to make the clouds disappear. I'll make the seagull disappear, and I'll make the boat disappear. So let's have a look at the clouds there. Good. Good. Seagull, we're going to hide him when we get game over. And boat, we're going to hide when we get game over. Now, why am I missing code on the boat there? Looks like I'm missing some code on the boat there to make him move, so I better put that back on very quickly, so we don't have a boat going nowhere. So what was that? It was we had to hide, we had to get rid of the weight, get rid of the hide, just hit forever, show him up. Peter 120, yeah, that's all good. 10 to 15 seconds, yeah, that's all fine. So let's just double check that that's all working. Ah, yes, his exposition's a bit off. We don't want that. We want him down here somewhere. So about -42. Okay, try that again. There we go. So that looks better. Our boat's working. Collect the gifts. Now when we hit... Okay, that last couple of gifts aren't working. That's alright. We haven't put the code on them yet. But looks like everything in the background there stopped quite nicely. So let's get this code onto these gifts 2 and 3. So... if we run into the bad guy, when I receive game over, we're going to hide the gift. 1, 2, and 3. Alright, that's good. That's good. And that's good. Okay, that was my mistake then. So we've now got the 3 gifts hiding once we receive the message game over. So our screen should be pretty clear at that stage. That's looking pretty good. So let's go back to our Santa now. There's a few different things we're going to do here when we receive game over on our Santa. Okay, so I'm going to bring out that code again. Where is it? Events, when I receive game over. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play a sound. And I'm going to bring in a new sound called die. There it is there. Have a listen. Okay, it just sounds like the game is finished. So we'll start the sound die. Now I want my little Santa to jump up in the air and then fall down to the bottom of the screen once he has died, so once he's hit one of the enemies. So in my motion, a couple of blocks here we're going to bring out. It's the glide. Now I'm going to glide half a second. Bit of a guessing game here for some of this, but I'm going to glide to his current X position. So he's going to stay where he's currently standing, but then he's going to go up in the air. So I'm going to go to the plus symbol here. And we're going to put in Y position, so his current Y position, plus 100. And then I might duplicate that, and we're going to glide, say 0.8 seconds, leave his X position as it is, and then we're going to change this to a minus. Oops. So it will be Y position minus, and we'll go 200. That'll get him down, hopefully, to the bottom of the page. And once we've done that, we're going to stop the other scripts in this sprite. Okay, so that will stop his little animation from running and stop him from moving any further. So let's give that a run as well. Just need to hit a bad guy here. Here we go. That worked pretty well. So we heard the sound of him dying. And he flew up in the air and then back down to the ground. Now, one thing I noticed before too is that Santa was actually behind, if you'll have a look, the boat here. If I jump up in the air, looks a bit weird. So I'm just going to go to my looks here and just choose go to front layer for the Santa. Put that in somewhere near the start there. So when the green flag's clicked, he should be in the front layer. That way he's in front of absolutely everything. So he's in front of the boat now, which is good. So our game is nearing completion. I think our Santa is looking pretty good. All our clouds and seagulls and boats are all good. Our gifts seem to be right. We're going to go over to the backdrop now on the right hand side here. And we're actually going to put a little bit of code in here. It's not too much, but enough to get the game going properly. So we're going to have when the green flag is clicked, we're going to make sure that this is the backdrop that appears at the start of our game. So we switch our backdrop to beach backdrop at the start of our game. Now, our score is still building. We want to reset that score. So let's set our score to 0 each time we press the green flag. So that restarts at 0 each time we start the game. And I want to have a little bit of music playing in the background. So in my sounds, I'm going to bring in one more here called music. There's this little Christmas song that I found online. You can put whatever you want in there. And I'm going to bring out a forever loop. And with that sound, I'm going to play sound music until done. So let's give that a run. You'll hear the music hopefully. Yeah, it looks good. And you'll see that our score did reset as well there. Now, one other thing I want to bring in here is when I receive game over. I want to change that backdrop from beach backdrop to the game over backdrop. So we're going to switch it to beach backdrop 2. I might actually rename that to game over. So in my costumes, I can change the costume name. So I'm going to switch the backdrop to game over, and then I'm going to stop the other scripts in this sprite. So that will stop the music from going. And I think that's about all we need to put in our background. So this game is getting pretty close to being finished. Let's have a close look. So we can move our Santa. He collects the presents. I'm going to jump over all these enemies to start with. And when we hit one of the enemies or obstacles there, everything seems to stop nicely and disappear off the screen. Our score remains and we get this game over. Now if we start that again, this game over should disappear. Music restarts and everything starts moving again. So as far as I can tell, I think we've got everything working just fine. So that is our little Christmas game made. As I said at the beginning of the tutorial series, I would like to see you extend this now. So as I said, some ideas for that is to add a time limit in, to see what score you can get within maybe 60 seconds. You could add in some more obstacles to avoid. You could add in more things to collect to get more points. They're just a few different things that you could add in. So have a bit of fun finishing that game off. Make sure that you save it to your computer when you're finished. I'll catch you in another tutorial. Merry Christmas.